Welcome back to Infinite Roleplay Dungeon a Day. My name is Nelson, your dungeon mapper, dungeon master, and guy that you're going to be watching doing this. Let's hop into Photoshop and deal with the fact that I completely started from scratch. Well, in today's episode, I think we're going to be making our grid patterns that we're going to use for our maps. So let's just go to File, New. Now, I like to work in the hundreds of DPI. Since I plan on making these maps available on DriveThru RPG, I will be making every single one of them at 300 DPI. However, we only need 1 inch to work with. So 1 inch, 300 DPI, RGB color, because why not? And I always start with a separate layer so that I know what I'm doing. Okay, the easiest way to do a square is select all. Switch this color to black instead of white. Select all, edit, stroke. Now we want to stroke the inside of the selection, and 12 pixels. Let's go 6 pixels, because when they line up with each other, it will be 12 pixels per black line. Trust me, watch. Select OK, deselect, and as you see, we get that overall selection. Now the pattern could be clear, or the pattern could be like this. It doesn't really matter right now. So we'll go, after creating that square, edit, define pattern, and usually label it. I'm not gonna label any of my stuff right now, but you know, grid 1. There you go. That's a grid pattern. So I'm gonna go to File, New, and go to 8.5 by 11. 8.5 wide and 11 inches tall. Just so I can have, I'm gonna have 2 folders open so we could illustrate how the patterns we are creating is looking. So how do you do a pattern? You fill. So let's fill that with white, and then double click to get your layer style, or go up to the layers menu and scroll down to layer style. Blending options, drop shadow. You know, goes to drop shadow, doesn't really matter. Pattern overlay. Since we got rid of all our patterns, and this is the only one, someone's calling me to find out how I do my patterns, apparently. This is our only pattern. It selects the pattern by default. And as you can see, if I just drag this away for a second, we have our squares. Now, because our pattern was made with 1 inch, each square on the paper is a 1 inch square. So if you were making battle maps, for instance, this would be a very good way to make your battle map. But I want to make a dungeon map, so I want to decrease the scale. Let's say I'm just going to enter in 10%. Why 10%? Because when we zoom in nice and tight, we should get 10 squares per inch. So if this was an inch, what a marching ants. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 squares per inch. And why do I want 10 squares an inch? Well, because I want to do an entire dungeon map. Once you do your entire dungeon map with this kind of grid scale set up and that precise control, you're good to go. Like, you're good. You see, yep. So we get about 10 squares per inch. Now, I can go back to our pattern creation file, which is only the 1 inch square. And for ease of use, just fill a blank layer with white, right? And do the same thing. We'll go to our pattern, pattern overlay, shrink this down to 10%, right? And as you can see, that's going to be the repeatable pattern. And go to Edit, Define Pattern. Right, 10 per 10 per inch, dude. I need an H at the end of that, don't I? Yeah. That way, if we actually delete this layer, okay, we're starting from scratch again. Right, turn off our background so you see we have nothing. Fill that with white. Go and double click to bring up your layer style. Pattern overlay. This is the initial pattern. 1 square per inch. And here we have a bunch of squares. 10 squares per inch. So you don't have to worry about the scaling so much. So that's cool, right? It's pretty much how we create our grid pattern. Now let's do some fun stuff. All right, let's turn that one off and bring back that grid. And what I want to do with this grid, where is it? Control. Let's start with a blank layer on top. Now remember, I only have this one brush, so I'm gonna pick up this brush and do some fun stuff with my pen from my tablet. And that's to draw some hatching in, right? Ooh, I have a great idea. Let's actually create a brush with not the white, with the black, which is just simply, don't want anything touching the corners. Simply like that. And go to Edit, Define Brush Preset. Hatchy. It's a hatchy brush. And Control All, no, not save. Control All and Control A for selecting all, and then just hit the delete to delete everything in there, and then Control D. It's a shortcut key for deselect. Now I can just bam, boom, just got my hatch. Now doing some fun things, I can go to Shape Dynamics, go to Angle Jitter, and just throw it all the way up, just so that I can have this one. Nah, I don't like that. I don't like how that looks. Let's keep our precise control over it. That way we can do this one here the way it was before. Get a new layer. Rotate this 90 degrees to get the opposite side. No. You know what I'm gonna do? What I'm gonna do? I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what I'm doing. I lost myself. We have that, and then we have this, so that they go. Let me actually reduce the opacity of that. Opacity, so that it's not as visible. Let's say 24, 25%, 25% on the money. Let's move this to a position I enjoy better. And then edit, define brush preset, sample brush, so that if I remove all of this, go to my brush menu, I get this brush, so I can just stamp it. Beautiful. So we have that one. That's the one that we're going to rotate 90 degrees and try to plop it down where it belongs. Now, you know what I'm gonna do? That's not gonna work. That is not gonna work. Let's turn on what we've created. Merge those layers. Right click, duplicate layer. Yeah, layer to a copy, and then Control T. Holding Shift, we can get a 90-degree click. So that's a 90-degree click. Right, that looks good. So let's add that in. Define brush preset. Doesn't really need a name. Deselect, unshow. Just turn off the layer beneath, so we get that one. Also define that as a brush preset. Define brush preset. Okay. Now turn everything off for a new layer. Edit, stroke, same 6 pixels inside. Go into a new layer so I do it correctly. Select the brush, make scale smaller, and then just do horizontal brush strokes. Lower the opacity once again to 25%, and edit, define brush preset. Sample brush 4, yes, why not? Now, there's that. Control T for free transform, rotating it, holding Shift to get the horizontal view. Define that. Deselect. Defined it again as a brush preset. These, I'm going to be getting rid of these brush presets by the end of the episode, because I'm doing this just to make a pattern. And free transform again, rotated 180 degrees so we get some variety. And once again, define, no, not pattern, define brush preset. No label necessary. Now, if I go here, you can see I'm overloading my brushes, but I will be deleting them again, like I said, so that we can start anew. Deleting all the unnecessary layers. Now, I'm going to go to View, Snap, if you don't have it turned on, View Rulers, and go to your ruler. You can't see it on that side of the screen. So go to your ruler right here. Alright, same thing on top. You click it, hold it, and then you drag it out, and you're able to drag out a line. Drag it out to, say, about the ½ inch mark. Right? Ooh. Let's try that again, about the ½ inch mark. Okay, and so you get that blue line. And doing that again from the top ruler, dragging downwards to the ½ inch mark. Alright, now I've got quarters. Okay, how many brushes did I make? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I may have to drag more rules out. So drag that from top down to the ½ inch mark on the first, and then the 3/4 inch mark right here. And repeating the same process for the vertical plane, the 1/4 inch and then the 3/4 of an inch, dividing this up into a grid. Now that we have our grid, we can shrink our brush to fit in that grid. But let's zoom in so we make sure we get it all nice. All right? What size is this grid? It's not working. Let's try to size it to 75 pixels. See if that see if that works. That works pretty well. And plop that down. Let's double click it, make sure it's there, nice and thick. Cycling upwards through the brushes. We know the size we need is 75 pixels, not 753, but 75. And moving right along somewhere else, make sure you put it in your grid. Tap twice and continue the process. Now I'm going to see if I can put this in my video editing program, just speed it up. You might see my face making more as I'm talking or whatever. But yeah. So some people are made of plastic, and some maps are made of wood. Going right along and shrinking that back down to 75 pixels. All I'm doing is I'm hand stamping a grid. Why? Because why not? We can get a completely different brush pattern. go. That's that. So that will not. Okay, that's beautiful. Going. Which one did I select? This one next. Let's go to this one. And let's save that crisscross one for some uniqueness. Put that one here. The right place. Again, right here. I'm trying to disperse any possible repeatable pattern. So I don't want like stamps to be appearing against each other, so it'll look like it's some variety. Granted, I'm probably obsessing over it a little too much, but that's what I do. That one there. That one there. Crisscross is so distinct that more than two. Would more than two be an issue? Well, that's that. I don't want to put that there. So, let's go zoom back in to make it easier for us to stamp our brushes. Let's go to this little vertical brush. Again, forgetting to put it down to 75 pixels. No, the vertical brush wouldn't look good there, but possibly here. Right? The cross pattern is not vertical. That vertical brush there, and one of these shrunk down to the appropriate size over here. Okay, press Control H to hide our grid to see if we have any holes that we need to shore up. And it looks pretty good. Fit on screen. Now every inch we're going to get those squares, which are 1, 2, 3, 4. So a 4 by 4 grid. It's no 4 by 4 grid shall not do. We need 10, don't we? No, we don't really need 10. This is just a different style. But just to show you that it can be done, you can get intricate stuff, and how to do it. Bam! Here's how to do it. Then go all the way back up. As a matter of fact, I actually want this as a brush. Define brush preset. Grid stamp. Why? Because I could start stamping down this grid to add more variety to the repeating pattern. You know, mixing that grid with some of the individual other ones. And let's also define the pattern. Grid hatch, you label it, you know, whatever naming conventions you feel is appropriate. Grid hatch, I don't know, mines. No, not mines. There's what, a 4 by 4, so 4 by 4 an inch. So I've created a new grid. Going back over to our testing file where we have this grid. Let's just double click to bring up the layer properties and change the grid to our new option. That was the big one. This is the one with 10 per inch, and this is the one with the hatching. So that's how a grid would look, where you have the hatched floors. If that's a style that you enjoy, then feel free to enjoy it. You know how to make grids now. Just in case you like hex grids, let's make a hex grid. I didn't time myself, so I have no idea how long this is going to be. I'm going to delete this. Just a new layer. How do we create a hex grid? So we need, is it a hex or an octagon? An octagonal grid. Because that's more appropriate, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. Yes. I'm going to need to hit the control checker thing. Well, let me see if I can go to view. Where the hell is it? Lock guides, lock slices, view rulers. Oh, show grid. I always use the shortcut keys on the keyboard, so unfortunately I didn't know what it was. Alright, alright. Let's hide. Let's show those. View clear guides. We're going to be dropping in some new guides. Okay, with the grid the way it is, the spacing being 4 squares, quarter-inch marks, on the grid. 4 divided by half is 2. Can we get 2 here? See, it won't go that way. It won't go that way. How about we get a little funky? Control A to select all, edit, stroke the inside. Again, 6 pixels like before. Alright. Now, right click, duplicate layer. Yes, duplicate layer. Control T for free transform, or you can find it in edit, free transform. And then let's rotate it holding shift 45 degrees. Alright, 45 degrees. Let's deselect that. No. Let's select inverse. Okay, select inverse. Hit your eraser tool and start erasing these corners in the layer beneath the second layer where you have your square, and that is how we will create our hexagon. Make sure you erase everything, but don't erase the inside of the square, because those are our cardinal directions for our hexagon, our north, south, east, and west directions. Just take a little care in what you're doing. Okay, Control D to deselect, or edit somewhere here. No, not edit, and select, deselect. Control D is a shortcut. Now let's just save it. Edit, define pattern, hex grid, 1 per inch, per 1 pinch, 1 per inch. Silly wabbit. Right, so we can delete those layers. We don't need them anymore. We just made our hex grid. Go here to test our hex grid out by double clicking our test layer, going to pattern overlay and selecting the brand new hex pattern. Ooh, look at this. Something happened. We have little squares or diamonds in and amongst our grid. Somewhere we made a boo-boo. So, let's go back over to our hex grid, make another one. I'm just going to Control Alt Z repeatedly until I get my grid pattern back. Collapse both of them, merge layers, and we need to be able to tile it appropriately. So we need, I'm pointing to my screen, like if you can see my finger as I'm pointing. We need, let's put the hand tool. You can see the hand tool, right? We need these areas here, the cardinal directions of north, south, east, and west, to somehow be in the middle. Now, I think we can get that done with the offset. This should have been in episode 2, because I know this episode is going to run long, isn't it? Select, no, filter, other, offset. Let me drag the offset thing here so you can see it. Now make sure that the wrap around option down here in undefined areas, wrap around, has the bullet point ticked, and then let's just move. Just drag this around until it gets to where it's supposed to be. Let's try 450. 450 seems about right. Let's see vertically if 450 is about right. Why is that there? Why is that square? Why is the square there? What is it about that square? How do we turn that square into a hex without disturbing octagon? Pardon me. Without disturbing the octagons we have. I'm going to control undo. Alright, control undo. Let's define that as a brush. Define brush preset. Get a little hex brush. And get rid of that. Start from the beginning. So our brush, our hex brush. Now we know this needs to be right about here to be good, right? It's gonna create that diamond. So let's shrink the brush to where it's just about in the center square. Then let's stamp the brush in its corners. It's still gonna generate a square. Those don't fit right. Oh my gosh.
I'm going past you now. Sorry.
OMG. Oh, I hate that. So I guess hex has to be the one to go. The way to go. Really? Hex is the way to go? Not octagons? Wow. I'm going to rack my brain about this. And, yeah. I think I'll end the episode here. Come back to the octagon or hexagon grids in the next episode. This has been episode 1 of Infinite Roleplay Dungeon Today. I am Nelson, your humble dungeon cartography master raider thingy guy. And, yeah, this is getting on my nerves. I can't believe this. But I'll figure it out next time. Hope to see you there. Peace.